Good evening. It's an honor to share my story with you. This is called The Meaning of Courage. When I was my baby sister's age, I didn't have any worries. And it's funny because my baby sister, the Nai, well, she's an American citizen, so it should be easier for her, but it's not, and it hasn't been. Because the people she loves the most in this whole entire world, my mom, our other sister, Beba, and I, we're all undocumented. So when we are threatened, my baby sister is threatened. So she's still forced to bear the burdens of political attacks on immigrants. I remember election night 2016 so clearly. My mom and I were in complete shock, trying to absorb what had just happened to the country, trying to figure out how to handle certain possibilities. I remember frantically Googling, what happens to a US citizen child if an undocumented parent is deported? My dad died young, so I needed to assure myself that if my mom were deported, that I could get custody of the Nai, who was only 8 at the time. But then again, what would happen if both siblings were deported? What would happen to the little one? My mom and I totally lost track of time in our election night panic, so when hours later I came downstairs, I was surprised to find my baby sister, the Nai, sitting in a corner by herself, crying, red-faced with puffy eyes. With my dad gone, I've always had to be the big brother, or rather father figure, since our mom was always working. I helped the Nai with her homework, we read each other bedtime stories, we played games. I would try to answer those unanswerable kinds of kid questions and comfort her when she was scared. But I wasn't used to trying to comfort anyone else when I needed so much comforting myself that night. I remember tilting her chin, glistening with streams of tears toward me, and just looking into those deep brown eyes and trying to do my best to give her soothing answers to the most difficult questions, and just repeating over and over, don't cry, baby, don't cry. It's gonna be okay, I promise. It's gonna be okay. Listen, why would you be deported? Do you even know what that word means? You shouldn't have to. But listen to me. You are an American citizen, and you will never be deported. And you're right, I'm not a citizen, but I've got DACA. They can't deport me. I know Mom doesn't, but Mom's gonna be okay. She's been here for decades. She's not going anywhere. Baby, don't cry, please. I promise, whatever happens, we'll be together, always. I'll be there to put Band-Aids on your scraped knees. I'll be there to help you with your school projects. Yes, we're gonna finish reading Harry Potter together. And I'll be by your side when you need help applying for college. I'll be there for you when you fall in love for your first time, when your heart is broken. And I'll walk you down the aisle one day. It really doesn't matter where, as long as we're together. Yes, of course the puppy's coming with us if we go. Lulu's part of this family too, I'll have you know. Yeah, that's the dimply smile I'd like to see. It's gonna be okay. At least that's what I told her. I did my best to offer her what I wanted to believe, not just for her, but our entire family. Because how do you talk to a child about being taken away from their parent or their siblings without terrorizing them, without stripping them of their innocence? Then, with each day of the Trump administration, the increased deportations of parents like my mom, the attempts to end the DACA program that protects me and our other sister Beba, the willingness to end rules that limit how long children can be detained, and even threats to strip children like the Nai of her citizenship. With all these mounting threats against my family, it felt increasingly cruel for me to offer my baby sister what amounted to be a fairy tale, when in reality, she might need great strength to overcome great threats. So this evening, I offer her and you another story. And this story won't make it all better, but I'm hoping it'll help us stay strong, regardless of the challenges that we will face. I was just 3 years old, and my sister Beba was just 1 when we crossed the border with our mom. We walked together with a group of 10, 15 people. We walked for hours and hours at night. I remember we were out in the middle of nowhere, following some dim silver light in the distance. I imagined we followed it because it meant we were going the right way, some shining city. We finally got to a raised road lined with street lamps, and to avoid walking over the street at night and potentially being seen, we crossed through a drainage tunnel under the road. Mom had me walk through the tunnel in front of her, and she carried my baby sister in her shawl. Beba and I were wearing those little kids' light-up shoes that everybody was going crazy over that year. Mom had saved up a lot of money to buy them because we were going to be seeing our dad after being in the US on his own for a year, and she wanted us to look our best. And those shoes, they're actually super helpful in that drainage tunnel, helping to light the way for all the people crawling on their hands and knees. But of course, in the dead of night, in the middle of the desert, they were a dead giveaway. When we were finally able to see the moonlight at the end of the tunnel and catch a whiff of fresh air, the coyotes urgently requested that my mom take off my shoes. "There's a border patrol car parked outside," he whispered. The drainage tunnel emptied out right next to a gas station where the border patrol car was parked. The officers were inside, we assumed, so we waited for a while, hoping they would return to their car and drive away. But nobody was coming out, and for some reason, the coyotes grew impatient and abruptly told everybody to move. And in the chaos, everybody immediately scrambled, crawling behind tall grass with on their hands and knees as the coyotes gave us voiceless commands with their fingers on their lips and pointing to the ground. But the ground was covered in cactus thorns and prickles, and I didn't have any shoes. And while everyone else crawled, my mom stood up, carrying both Beba and me in her arms, and she just started walking. And at first I thought we would be caught because, everyone else was still crawling on the ground on their hands and knees, but she stood up tall and walked with a defiant pep in her step, as if she belonged right there where she stood. And that's when I realized she hadn't given up. She just had faith that walking quickly and quietly was her best strategy to protect us. She was resolved that somehow, somewhere, we would find a place to call home, somewhere where our family could thrive. And I've never forgotten the look on my mom's face as she walked out into the darkness of an unknown country. That is when I first learned that the real meaning of courage is not to pretend that you're immune from fear, but rather to calmly and steadily take action in spite of it. Our former president and his current followers, they have done a great job to caricature my little 3-year-old self as a diseased toddler, criminal, murderer, rapist, gang member in the making. They try to scare people. They do scare people who don't know any undocumented immigrants into thinking that a mother carrying her children to safety is nothing less than an invasion. But Beba and I, we grew up beloved in our communities, by our friends, by our neighbors. We both went to college. I even became the first undocumented student body president of my university. I'm not part of some invading army. But like many of you, I'm here fighting for the American ideals I know we can live up to. The former president, he still wants to take away my baby sister's right to citizenship, but I remain hopeful that Denai, or maybe some other young woman, maybe in this audience tonight, will one day be our future president and actually help lead us to a future where we truly have liberty and justice for all. But that reality is going to take a lot of hard work, and not just on my part or on the part of the immigrant community, but on your part too. As Anne Frank once wrote in her famous diary, how wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Thank you.